Once upon a time, there was a young woman named Clara who lived in a small, picturesque village nestled between mountains and rivers. Clara wasn't rich, nor was she particularly famous. She was, however, deeply passionate about her craft, painting. Every morning, she would walk to her tiny studio, brush in hand, and immerse herself in colors, shapes, and textures that seemed to speak to her in ways words could not. Her art was raw, full of life, and authentic. It was Clara's way of expressing herself to the world, and she felt content in the solitude of her work. But as much as she loved what she did, Clara's paintings never seemed to sell. She would showcase them at local fairs and galleries, but there were no takers. Her heart would sink as she saw the disinterested glances of the passers-by. Despite her quiet spirit, Clara started to feel as though she was just a small fish in an ocean of talent. One day, as she was preparing for a gallery show, a well-dressed art critic named Vincent stopped by her studio. He examined her paintings with a sharp, discerning eye, then looked at her with a smirk. "You have potential, Clara," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "but there's one thing your art lacks." Clara's heart skipped a beat, but she held her breath, waiting for the critique. "You need to make your art more marketable," Vincent continued. "Simplify it, make it palatable to the masses, add some popular themes, maybe some abstract shapes, some easy colors that will sell." Clara felt a rush of uncertainty flood over her. She had never thought of art as something to be sold, something to be made easier for people to understand. But Vincent was an expert, wasn't he? He was respected in the art world. If he said her work needed to change, perhaps he was right. The next morning, Clara did what Vincent suggested. She took her bold, original paintings and began to alter them. She stripped away the vibrant, chaotic strokes that gave her work its personality and replaced them with softer, duller colors. She simplified the shapes, made them more conventional, and in the process, she lost herself in the artwork. It wasn't her anymore. Weeks passed, Clara displayed her new pieces at the gallery show, but instead of feeling pride, she felt disconnected from her own creations. The visitors did take notice of the changes. Some even bought a few pieces. But when the show ended, Clara stood in her studio, staring at the wall, feeling empty. What was the point of her art if it wasn't her? Then, one cold evening, an older woman named Lily, a fellow artist who had known Clara since childhood, visited her studio. When she saw Clara's new work, she raised her eyebrows and asked, "What happened to your colors, Clara? Where's the fire, the passion?" Clara hesitated, but then, as the words spilled from her mouth, she confessed her fears. "I changed it because I thought it would make me more successful. I thought it would bring in more buyers, more approval, but now it doesn't even feel like my work anymore." Lily looked at her, her eyes softening with understanding. "Clara, you've let others define your art. You've listened to everyone except yourself. Art isn't about fitting in, it's about standing out. It's about telling your story, your truth, and if you lose that, you lose everything." That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, grappling with the truth in Lily's words. Was it worth it to chase success at the cost of her own identity? Had she been so afraid of failure that she had given up on what made her unique? The next morning, Clara walked into her studio with a new sense of purpose. She wiped away the changes she had made to her paintings and returned to the bold, daring colors she had once loved. Her strokes were wild, her patterns unpredictable, and her heart full of hope again. She didn't know if her paintings would sell, but she knew one thing for sure: they would be hers, completely and utterly. When Clara opened the gallery the next week, she was nervous. Would people appreciate her art this time? Would they laugh at her for going back to what felt true to herself? As she stood there waiting, a group of visitors wandered in. One by one, they paused in front of her paintings. There was silence. Then a woman in the back exclaimed, "These are incredible. There's so much life in these colors. It's like they speak to me." And just like that, Clara felt the weight on her chest lift. She smiled to herself, knowing that she had finally found her true voice again. Clara's journey is a reminder that when you let fear, doubt, or the opinions of others dictate your path, you lose sight of your own identity. The world may try to erase your voice, your art, your truth, but you must have the courage to reclaim it. Don't let the noise of others drown out your inner voice. Your dreams, your values, and your authenticity are your greatest assets. The world may not always understand or appreciate your uniqueness, but if you stay true to yourself, you'll attract the right people who will. Be brave enough to follow your own path and paint your own story, because it's the ones who dare to be authentic that change the world. As long as you let fear decide your actions, someone else will end up deciding how you live. But when you embrace who you truly are, you'll find your own way. Write your own story, and let it be one of courage, authenticity, and self-trust.
If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a nudge to rise again. And if you want more heartfelt, transformative stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Thank you for listening. We'll meet again in the next story.